So you just heard a couple of nature-themed pieces. Lauren played Autumn Leaves, and you just heard Anandi play L'Orage, and representing the first Autumn Leaves piece represented the motion of falling leaves through the air, and the L'Orage piece sounded much like a raging storm. And these pieces really show how our mission, part of our mission is to show how music is intertwined with the imagery of nature. And I want to announce this next piece is a special piece in our program, Shimmering Waterfalls by Nancy Faber, that Anandi is about to play. And it's a special one to me because in my Waterfalls book, my Waterfalls of Georgia book, I wrote a little chapter called Waterfalls and Music Flow Hand in Hand. And it brings me memories of the first time that I discovered an undocumented waterfall here in Georgia. It sounds just like the music will sound. At the time, I was still 16 years old, I was still a student here at European School of Music. And around that time, I had an older friend and pastor, Greg Ford, who was finding a lot of unknown waterfalls throughout the North Georgia mountains. And this inspired me to look for my own. And so one day I was looking through, at the age of 16, I was looking through Google Earth satellite imagery, and I found what looked like just a blotch of white water that was completely undocumented. I searched up this creek online, could not find any information about it, but it looked just like a waterfall. So I convinced my dad to go with me and look for this suspected waterfall. And it took a lot of coaxing. There was no trail, we had no intel for what the conditions might be. This was in a pretty remote area, about 2 hours north of here in Raven County. But I still convinced him to go, so we went on an early March morning. We bushwhacked about an hour through dense rhododendron, dense bushes, kind of like what you see here, but a little more dense. And then we walked up for half a mile up a freezing creek, freezing waters early March morning. And finally I rounded this bend, and I saw a 65-foot, towering, magnificent waterfall. And I just could not believe, how spectacular this was, and how come there was no evidence online of it existing. And so, you imagine this feeling, and when I hear Shimmering Waterfalls, this kind of feeling of discovering a magnificent waterfall comes back to me. And so, when we found this waterfall, I felt it was only fitting to name it Angelica Falls in honor of my mother, Angela, who's the founder and director of the school, and who instilled the love for nature and music in me. So I hope you too can experience this feeling of a magnificent, towering waterfall as you hear Anandi play Shimmering Waterfalls.